In case you just joined us, let's recap the big event that happened today. The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa was unable to deliver his message at Cosatu's main Workers' Day rally after angry mine workers disrupted the event. They wanted him to intervene in their ongoing wage strike at Sibanye. For more on this, I'm joined now by Ebrahim Harvey, a former trade unionist who will speak to me about today's developments. Dr. Harvey, good evening. Thank you for your time. So, I don't know, I'm still undecided as to whether what we witnessed today will prove to be of any historical significance, at least politically, or was it just a blip that can be, that the ANC president can ride out and hold together the semblance of an alliance that remains. What's your sense of what we witnessed today?
No, we shouldn't be naive about what has happened today. What you've indicated, with all due respect, is that, this is deeply symptomatic of the fact of the worst ever crisis in the ruling alliance of the ANC, Cosatu, and the SACP, which I've been writing about for over 2 decades, asking Cosatu, what are they doing in that alliance? They're suckers for punishment, at the receiving end of so much abuse, etc., and they're still there. But now it's far worse. The alliance now is riddled with the kind of contradictions and contrasts and problems that even when I wrote 2 decades ago was mild in comparison. So there is no doubt they've got serious problems, NUM and AMCU at Sibanye, with the wage negotiations. So I think you need to answer your question, you need to look at what has happened to the ruling alliance over the past few years. And don't forget that Labour is extremely unhappy with the ANC. You can see what happened in the public sector when the ANC government reneged last year on a 3-year public sector formal wage agreement. They are terribly unhappy. Let me tell you, there are many other things that are going wrong, but that thing has been a very sore point with the public sector unions in particular. So there's a lot more that I could add to this to indicate how serious. In fact, the seriousness in the Cosatu alliance, the ANC alliance in government is unprecedented. And in Cosatu itself, after the split that occurred in Cosatu 2015, Harvey went off and formed SAFTU. SAFTU is having serious problems of its own. And the Socialist Workers' Revolutionary Party that's born out of SAFTU, they never even participated in last year's elections. So poor was their performance in the previous elections. But on the whole, let no one else tell you anything else. The trade union and broader labor movement is in the worst crisis for a number of reasons, both in South Africa and globally. That is there are parts to May Day. You got to recall the deeper history, and then you got to recall contemporary struggles. Cyril was prevented from speaking because people were angry, but I wonder what he would have said, if he really delivered that speech and what it would have consisted of. Because, in fact, the crisis in Cosatu itself and the split, I don't want to use this opportunity to go into it now.
Sure.
But the ANC and SACP, I'm telling you now in public, were responsible partly for that split in Cosatu. So there are lots of things to be said, but Royal Bafokeng, before appraising the fact that he never spoke and why, look at the attendance. When I was in Cosatu, there were 20, 30, 40,000 people at rallies when you, celebrated May Day. I think there was 1,000 around there, I think the people, they were so embarrassed by the attendance, But very important, if you go back to the clips, and how shop steward spoke before Ramaphosa was supposed to speak, and hear what he has to say about how seriously Nahawu was unhappy with the ANC. Nahawu was one of the unions that was, full force behind the ANC. They never went with Harvey and formed SAFTU. They stuck in Cosatu, and they're the most unhappiest union now in Cosatu, primarily because
Dr. Harvey. Dr. Harvey, to what extent is this crisis that you describe accounted for by a feeling of one, helplessness by the workers, that, their voices are just simply, their political voice just doesn't hold sway within the governing alliance led by the ANC, or two, at a personality level, that they had invested some hope and what they hoped would be political capital in the personality of the president, who was, after all, a founder member of the National Union of Mineworkers, pivotal in the mass democratic movement, but also former Secretary General of the ANC, and someone that they catapulted to the echelons of leadership in the ANC.
No, it's a combination, Tulas. The answer to that lies the combination of reasons and factors. There's no doubt, that the Cosatu still continues to be largely electoral cannon fodder for the ANC at election time, something I said when I had a column with the Mail and Guardian over 2 decades. It's still the same thing. In fact, it's worse off now because there's massive retrenchments that's going on in the public sector and the private sector at the moment. The unprecedented rise in the cost of living, etc. So there's a combination of reasons. And what is very significant is that the Royal Bafokeng and Rustenburg region is very strong, with the mining trade unions, And just look how unhappy are people that such a poor turnout on Labor Day is very significant, I think, with deep-seated disenchantment with the ANC. And particularly, one has to face these facts, really. Even regarding the Eskom crisis, Zuma placed Ramaphosa in charge of Eskom in 2014. Nobody goes there. But certainly they are deeply disappointed, and the president of Cosatu has expressed it on numerous occasions. They, and then they rallied Cosatu to get the support for Cyril for 2017. They certainly, without the support of Cosatu, I don't think he would have made it, because Cosatu brought in the SACP to support him. They are deeply disappointed. I think Cyril is caught up in a lot of contradictions and problems within the ANC, and he's got to watch his back because of the other faction in the ANC, that's targeting him, that, would hope that he loses in the election, the ANC's national conference in December. So I think there's a whole lot of challenges that Cyril faces, But there's no doubt there's disappointment in Cosatu with his performance since 2000, the electoral conference, of 2017 when he was elected.
Lastly, Dr. Harvey, lastly, to what extent could this moment signal workers on the shop floor trying to wrest back control of the labor movement, in the sense that, one of the features that stood out for me was that I don't know what President Ramaphosa of the ANC was going to say once he took to that podium, but I do suspect that much of it would have been political speak, a global view of the state of the alliance and other issues at a much higher level along the lines of what Zingiswalosi had been doing. Not saying that they're not touching on workers' issues, they are, but it seems to me that these workers were quite specific in saying that we want 1,000 rand to be granted by this company Sibanye, which talks to the material conditions that they face, which seems to have been a feature even during the Marikana strikes and the Platinum Belt strikes that we saw subsequent to Marikana. To what extent then does this moment signify that at least portions of the labor movement want to wrest back control to say, let's focus on the shop floor issues and stop this pandering to the political whims of the leader of the alliance in the form of the ANC and playing in their factional spaces?
No, look, these material conditions and the struggles around it, whether wages and other working conditions, the working class is always involved with that, whether there's organization or not organization, or there are kind of serious problems that we've had, in South Africa. Workers have always been in it. If you look at it, the number of strikes that have taken place in the past few years, you would think that, there's an indication of the need to organize, but You know, the percentage of workers that are organized in South Africa is 25, 26%, still very low. But there's no doubt, and don't forget, you have to interrogate, besides the political problems with the ANC leave, look what has happened in the trade union movement itself. The massive corruption as a result of the investment wings of the trade unions. I mean, you know, just recently you've seen what they had to say about NUMSA's investment wing and the problems there. One of the biggest reasons, nobody goes into it, the reason why workers have become distrustful of trade unions is primarily a lot of factors, but what has happened with the investment wings and how workers' monies and funds have been stolen by the leadership of these investment companies, we don't go into. And I can tell you there's a lot of contributing factors to. It's a sad day, and let nobody tell you, you know, May Day is not just to recall the important, you know, glorious moments of the history, but also contemporary struggles. And there's little to be celebrated of, really, if you talk about what workers are facing, and especially how the ANC has treated Cosatu and the broader working class for an organization that says it's pro-poor policies. I mean, it's just an absolute, you know, amazing thing what has happened. The ANC is the biggest problem, to my mind, of what the labor movement has faced since 1994. And certainly, if you look at the ruling alliance, the problems that Cosatu in particular, less the SACP, the SACP seems to have gone along mostly with the ANC. But the Cosatu has been a big thorn in the side of the ANC. I think, you know, which is in fact why NUMSA split the last time. They had enough of being electoral cannon fodder for the ANC. That's why they broke. They said they've had enough of it. Whether the rest of Cosatu, in the light of what's going on, you know, will decide, you know, there's talks already that Cosatu has approached NUMSA, which is the biggest affiliate of SAFTU, for unity talks. So I'm hoping, you see, you can't talk about tackling the ANC and government and new level if you don't have unity of workers. The unity of workers is essential, and I'm hoping that, you know, SAFTU and Cosatu get together, you know, and reunite, and then thereafter seek a broader unity involving, you know, trade union federations, you know, like NAFTU and so on.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights, your sharp insights there, Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, a former trade unionist and a veteran political analyst and political writer there, weighing in on the events that we saw earlier on at the Royal Bafokeng Stadium in Rustenburg, where President Cyril Ramaphosa, in his capacity as ANC president, was unable to address the May Day rally organized by Cosatu.